So it's February and I'm sowing some more seeds. The whole February seed sowing's a wee bit more exciting than it was in January because there's a bigger list of seeds, because I start growing some of my flowers in February. But all of the things I grow in January, you can be growing in February too. So what we're going to do then is I'm going to talk about a few different things this week. So number one, I'm going to take you through some of the things to think about because they're important. Number two, I'm going to take you through the seeds I sow that require heat. Now, heat could be as complicated or as fancy as a heated greenhouse, a heated polytunnel. I don't know anyone that's got a heated polytunnel. It could also be, like myself, I've got a heated propagator, or maybe you just start your seeds off in your airing cupboard in the house, okay? So we'll talk about those separately. For number three, we're going to talk about undercover. Now, I mentioned this in the January seed sowing video. Undercover is simply something like a greenhouse or a polytunnel. You know, when you can sow seeds, they don't necessarily get heat, but they're protected from the worst of the current weather. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So as always then, the first thing I want you guys to think about before you get excited about copying me is think about your garden, where that garden is and what the environment, the climate, the weather is, and most importantly, frost. Yep, if you guys don't already know when your last frost date is, I want you to pause this video and go and find it now because it's super important. And to help with that, I've put a link in the description of this video. So the reason your last frost date is important is because you don't want to be sowing or planting little plants out in the garden that will then be killed by that frost. So for me, my last frost date is the 18th of May. Before you get excited about that one, it is an average frost date, so it's roughly the 18th of May. I usually say it can be as much as 2 weeks past then, and I know this because I keep a gardening journal, so I have these records, but it's something to think about. So find out when your last frost date is, mark it in your calendar, and then give yourself a couple of weeks afterwards to be safe. One of the other things you'll hear then is that some seed packets or companies will tell you to sow a certain seed 8 weeks prior to your last frost, 12 weeks prior to your last frost. So that's to give that little plant lots of time to grow and get strong before you put it out there. So that's why that's important and why I've said put it in your calendar. Now, those of us who have a space like a greenhouse or a polytunnel, we can actually be growing and sowing things and keeping them in these big spaces where they're nice and safe away from the frost, and then we can put them out once they're nice big established plants and they're nice and safe. So that's why you'll see a lot of YouTubers just now talking about what they're sowing, even when it's plants they're not going to be putting out in the garden until, like me, May and June. So seeds you can grow that need heat then. Last month I sowed my King of the North peppers, and I also sowed two types of tomato. I sowed my Brad's Atomic Grape and my Murman, the big beefsteak tomatoes. It's not the most exciting seed packets, but hey ho. And I also sowed my Aubergine Black Beauty. Now, it's not too late to sow those in February now if you're wanting to get a head start on things. You've still got plenty of time. But again, as I mentioned, those guys need heat to get them germinated, and they also need to be kept in the warm as they grow into plants. So it's not just about germination. But another thing, so light is a big thing here, okay? Now, as you guys can see, I've got lights on my heated propagator, even though I'm outdoors in a greenhouse. And it's for two reasons. Number one, even now in February, we're still not getting the amount of light that these plants need, even in a greenhouse. Okay, we're doing well. It's much better than a windowsill, but it's still not there. So I've got these lights to help with that. Now, the second thing that a lot of people may not realise is when you've got things in a propagator, whether it's heated or not, that propagator will steam up, because that's the whole point. You're creating that humid environment that the little seedlings need. The problem with that is it makes the lids diffuse that light and you get much less light through. Okay, so I've got these lights going even though they're out here. So it's something to think about. These heated crops like tomatoes, peppers, chilies, aubergines, all of those types of things that we're doing now, they're going to need heat and light, so have a think about it. Now, As I said, I've already sown 2 varieties of tomato, but I'm actually going to be sowing 2 more types this month. There's more coming as well, but I'll tell you about that next month because it's quite exciting. But for February, I'm going to be sowing 2 more tomatoes. So someone let me know how exactly I pronounce Rotkäppchen. Someone get in touch. So this month, I'm actually going to be growing 2 very, very small bush tomato plants. And when I say very small, I'm talking about patio sized, like this size. I grew them when I was a beginner gardener and they were fantastic because they really don't take up much space at all, which is perfect if you've only got a small greenhouse like mine or you've just got a small sunny spot in your garden. There's 2 varieties. One is Ola Polka, which is not a difficult one to say. The second one I'm going to be doing is Rotkäppchen. As usual, I've got links to all of this stuff in the description. So if I said that wrong, then you'll be able to read it in the description and you'll know what I'm talking about. Those are 2 tomatoes that I'm going to be sowing in February. Like I say, there's more coming, but for February, that is it. That's the seeds I'm sowing that need heat. I'm sowing an awful lot more that are just undercover crops. So that means I'm just sowing them out in my greenhouse. A lot of folks sow beetroot and carrots at this time of year, and I'm no exception. The idea being that because it's undercover and protected in here, you can just start getting things going a little bit early. Now, the majority of folk you'll hear talk about this are actually growing them either in big greenhouses or polytunnels, and they're actually growing them in beds. That's the ideal scenario. I don't have that option, but what I do is I sow them into root trainers and I can leave them in those root trainers until they're really properly established, and then I transplant them outdoors. It's something I've been doing for a little while and I've had a lot of success with. Not everyone does, but that's the beauty of gardening. We all do our own things. So variety wise then, I've got Bolt Hardy beetroot because I just find they're just such a good reliable variety for me in the garden. And I've also got 2 types of carrot. I've got Purple Haze, which is a purple carrot, obviously, and I've got Amsterdam Forsen. Now again, another undercover one that you can be sowing this month that I've already got going, peas. Now I've got these peas going for the pea shoots, so I'm not intending these to be big plants. 2 varieties I recommend for that is Meteor, which all of these are, and Kelvedon Wonder, which I had so much success with last year. Fantastic varieties of peas, or pea shoots, up to you. So some more stuff I'm doing then. Not started these off yet, but I'm also going with the whole breakfast radish thing. These guys grow really fast. They're an awesome one if you're growing with kids. Kate's a favourite of these. She loves a good radish. So breakfast radishes are our favourites, but you can be going with the little globe radishes and what have you as well. Great one to get started. Another one I'm going to be doing, thank you to Liz Grows Happy on Instagram for the suggestion, I'm going to be going with perpetual spinach. Now, we like spinach. We like little baby leaves in salad, but we also use the bigger leaves in a lot of cooking. Perpetual spinach is one of those plants that will just keep going. You don't have to worry about the whole succession thing and keeping sowing new plants after harvest. These guys should keep us going for quite a while in spinach leaves, so I'm looking forward to giving that a try this year. Now, another one I'm sowing this month, which I've already got going, is spring onions. So for you guys who are new, let me just let you know what's happening on this channel. I'm actually doing succession planting this year, which means I sow little amounts often, so I've continually got plants growing and harvesting throughout the season. These are my Winter Hardy white Lisbon spring onions. They're a standard variety, but Steve over at Greenside Up has recommended a new one for me to try. He says he's never had a lot of luck getting these guys to properly kind of thicken up, so he's recommended something called Ishikiru. Now it's labelled as a bunching onion. I think that just means a spring onion, but somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm going to get them sown this month, and that's the first lot of my succession sown going. Now, one of the things that's different about me is I've never separated out the whole vegetable flower garden thing. I've always shown you guys my whole garden every month and talked about the flowers and the veggies and everything together, because when you grow in a garden, quite often that's what you're dealing with. It's your whole garden. So I'm going to tell you about the flowers that I'm going to be sowing this month as well, rather than putting it in a separate video. So I won't be putting any of these plants out into the garden. They're all for undercover, and they'll be staying in here until after the frost has passed. But getting them going in nice big strong plants helps me to defeat the slugs, because we have a lot of problems with slugs and snails in this garden, and they like nice new soft little shoots and leaves, and that's what they go for. So I'm going to get these going so they're nice big strong plants before I put them out. And I've got quite a lot going. Antirrhinums are a favourite of mine. They also get called snapdragons, so they're going to be getting sown this month, and they're going to go in that end bed we've got, because we like to do different heights in that bed. Now, there's another one that's a big favourite of ours, and we grow this from seed, even though it's probably more common to grow it from tuber, and that is dahlias, and it's a particular dahlia. It's a Yankee Doodle Dandy, which is my favourite, and it's one of the first flowers I ever grew from seed in this garden, and it holds a real special place to me because of that. So again, because I'm getting it going undercover and keeping it undercover, I'm going to sow it this month in February and keep it going. And again, it's going to be one that's going to go down at the bottom of the garden. Again, it's going to give me the colour and the heights and all that kind of stuff in that end bed, and the pots that we like to have around here. And following on from that one, we've got some other stuff that's going in there too. Rudbeckia. We've got a couple of Rudbeckia in this bed, and I hope they survive and come back, but I'm going to be sowing some seeds this year. Now, I was given some plug plants last year and they all died. I was not impressed, so I'm growing them from seed myself this year. But those are absolutely gorgeous, big, beautiful, blousy yellow and orange flowers that they will keep going through autumn and give you loads of fantastic colour in the garden in autumn. So absolute bonus, so that's why I'm going with those ones. I'm also doing some more slightly more dainty types, things like cosmos. I'm doing candy stripe cosmos. Kate is a huge fan of cosmos. They're just so lovely, and they just kind of move in the breeze, and they're just so delicate and fabby. So we're going for lots of them, and we put them in pots all over the garden to add little splashes of colour. Got little happy faces saying hello. As a partner to those, we're growing calendula. We absolutely love them. We've found in the pots around the garden are just these little small daisy-like yellow flowers, so gorgeous, and it's a multi-headed plant, so you get lots of flowers on one plant. So we're getting them going as well, and it's a really interesting seed as well. Now, the last flower that I'm going to sow this month, and it's last because I actually was thinking of not doing it, it's these guys, foxgloves. I am well known for my foxgloves in the garden. Usually our garden is absolutely full of foxgloves. But last year I just had no luck with the seeds that I had kept, and nothing really lasted. So I'm a bit kind of behind. Normally I'd be sowing this stuff in August, and I'd be bringing it on through winter in the greenhouse. And then come spring I get really strong big plants that go out and will flower that year. Now, the reason I was saying I wasn't going to sow any is because sowing them at this time of year, it's kind of like I thought, what's the point? They're not going to flower until next year, so I'm as well just waiting and sowing them in August. And I was a bit meh. But again, Steve over at Greenside Up has said, you know, give it a try, Eli. There's a small chance some of them might flower. You never know. And I thought, do you know what? Let's give it a go then. I'll get some foxgloves sown, we'll see what happens, and I'll bring you guys along for the journey and we can see if any flower or not. But at least that way, I don't run the risk of missing out again next year if I don't get them sown in time. You that little boost of inspiration you needed, but you want some more gardening fun to get going, go and watch this wee video here and you'll get a wee blast of colour to see what all my flowers look like in my garden. I hope that was useful, folks, and I'll see you next week. See you, everyone!